Halloween, 1974. The air was crisp, laced with the scent of autumn leaves, and the streets were alive with the excitement of children. The promise of sugary delights hung in the air. Children, their faces hidden behind masks of ghouls and goblins, skipped from house to house, their laughter echoing through the twilight. The streets were a canvas of creativity, with costumes ranging from the spooky to the whimsical. But in the quiet suburban town of Deer Park, Texas, a sinister shadow lurked beneath the festive veneer. The joy and innocence of the night masked a dark undercurrent that would soon come to light. This was no night for make-believe. It was a night that would forever stain the innocence of Halloween, a night when the line between fantasy and reality blurred in the most tragic way. A father's greed would claim the life of his own son, shattering the illusion of safety and joy that Halloween had always represented. The community would never be the same. This is the story of Ronald O'Bryan, the man the world would come to know as the Candyman. His actions on that fateful night would leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all who heard the tale. The chilling tale of how a night meant for laughter and sweet treats turned into a parent's worst nightmare serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind even the most innocent of facades. As the story of the Candyman spread, it cast a long shadow over the tradition of trick-or-treating, forever altering the way parents and children approach the holiday. The events of that night in Deer Park became a cautionary tale, a story told in hushed tones to remind us all that sometimes the real monsters are not the ones wearing masks. Ronald O'Bryan was a man drowning in a sea of financial despair. The weight of unpaid bills and mounting debts pressed down on him, threatening to crush his carefully constructed facade of middle-class respectability. He worked as an optician, but his salary barely kept his family afloat. His wife, Daneen, stayed home with their two young children, 8-year-old Timothy and 5-year-old Elizabeth. Desperation gnawed at him. He had to find a way out, a way to secure his family's future. Little did they know, the answer, or so he thought, lay in a sinister scheme, a plan as cold and calculated as it was unthinkable. As Halloween approached, Ronald saw a glimmer of hope in the most unlikely of places, life insurance. He had recently taken out policies on both his children, small policies meant to cover unexpected expenses. But now, those policies took on a new, sinister significance in his mind. He began to research, his mind consumed by thoughts of payouts and premiums. He learned that some policies offered double indemnity for accidental deaths. The seed of a horrifying plan began to take root in his mind, a plan that would exploit the innocence of Halloween for his own twisted gain. On Halloween night, as the sun began its descent, Ronald took his children, Timothy and Elizabeth, trick-or-treating accompanied by a neighbor and his son. The children, dressed in their costumes, were ecstatic, their laughter echoing through the quiet streets as they went door to door, their bags filling with candy. But Ronald seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere. He lagged behind the group, his face a mask of worry and anticipation. He clutched a bag of his own, a bag that held a dark secret, a secret that would soon shatter the festive illusion of the night. Back home, after a night of trick-or-treating, Timothy, his face flushed with excitement, eagerly dug into his bag of candy. Among the Snickers and Starbursts, he pulled out a Pixy Stix, its familiar cylindrical shape promising a sugary rush. But this was no ordinary Pixy Stix. This one had been tampered with, filled with a lethal dose of cyanide by his own father. Ronald watched, a chilling detachment in his eyes, as Timothy poured the poisoned powder into his mouth. Timothy's death was swift and agonizing. The cyanide, a deadly poison, coursed through his small body, shutting down his organs one by one. He died later that night, his cries of pain echoing in the stillness of the hospital room, forever seared into his mother's memory. The community was devastated. Whispers of poisoned candy spread like wildfire. Parents frantically checked their own children's Halloween hauls, fear and suspicion casting a pall over the once joyous holiday. The police, however, were not so quick to believe in the random act of Halloween horror that Ronald desperately tried to portray. Their suspicions fell on him, the grieving father who seemed more concerned with the life insurance payout than with finding his son's killer. Their investigation revealed a man drowning in debt, a man who had recently taken out life insurance policies on his children, a man who had conveniently purchased the poisoned Pixy Stix from a store where he had previously worked. Justice served, innocence lost. In the annals of criminal history, few cases have been as chilling and heart-wrenching as that of Ronald Clark O'Bryan. The evidence against Ronald O'Bryan was overwhelming. From the poisoned Pixy Stix to the damning testimonies, every piece of evidence painted a grim picture of a father who betrayed the ultimate trust. He was arrested and charged with the capital murder of his son, Timothy. The community was in shock, unable to fathom how a parent could commit such a heinous act. The trial was a media sensation, the nation captivated by the heinous nature of the crime. Reporters from across the country flocked to cover the proceedings, each day bringing new revelations that left the public in disbelief. The jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to death. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and sorrow, knowing that justice had been served, but at a tremendous cost. On March 31, 1984, after exhausting all appeals, Ronald Clark O'Bryan was executed by lethal injection. The execution marked the end of a dark chapter, but the scars left behind would never fully heal. His last words were a rambling statement proclaiming his innocence. Even in his final moments, he clung to a narrative that no one believed. But the world knew the truth. The evidence was irrefutable, and the pain he caused was immeasurable. His actions had shattered the innocence of a community and left a permanent mark on the collective memory. He had sacrificed his own son on the altar of greed, forever etching his name in the annals of history as the Candy Man. The story of Ronald O'Bryan serves as a grim reminder of the depths of human depravity and the enduring quest for justice. The bitter aftertaste. The murder of Timothy O'Bryan sent shockwaves through the nation. It shattered the illusion of safety that had once cloaked Halloween, replacing it with a sense of vulnerability and fear. Parents, once content to let their children roam free on Halloween night, now scrutinized every piece of candy, their trust irrevocably broken. The specter of the Candyman loomed large, a chilling reminder that even in the seemingly safe haven of suburbia, evil could lurk in the shadows disguised as a harmless treat. Halloween's dark legacy. In the aftermath of the tragedy, communities across the country implemented new safety measures. Hospitals offered free X-rays of Halloween candy, and parents were urged to inspect their children's treats for any signs of tampering. The tradition of homemade treats, once a hallmark of Halloween, dwindled, replaced by commercially packaged candy, seen as a safer alternative. Halloween, once a carefree celebration of all things spooky, had been irrevocably marked by tragedy. The joy and innocence of the holiday were forever tainted by the knowledge that a parent, driven by greed and desperation, could commit such an unspeakable act. Echoes of a nightmare. Even today, decades later, the story of Ronald Clark O'Bryan continues to haunt us. Known infamously as the Candy Man, his heinous act on Halloween night in 1974 left an indelible mark on the collective psyche of a nation. His name has become synonymous with Halloween horror, a cautionary tale whispered from one generation to the next. The mere mention of his name sends shivers down the spines of parents everywhere, a grim reminder of the potential dangers that can lurk in the most innocent of places. The fear he instilled in the hearts of parents lingers, a chilling reminder that even in the most festive of seasons, evil can lurk beneath the surface, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The trust that was shattered on that fateful night has never fully been restored, and the shadow of his actions continues to loom large over Halloween celebrations. And so, every Halloween, as children don their costumes and set out in search of treats, the legacy of the Candyman lives on, a haunting reminder of the fragility of innocence and the dark side of human nature. Parents remain vigilant, inspecting every piece of candy, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that the world is not always as safe as it seems. The story of Ronald Clark O'Bryan serves as a stark warning, a dark echo of a nightmare that refuses to fade away, reminding us all to cherish and protect the innocence of our children.